Hi Homeworthy, welcome to my home in Pacific Grove. I'm Erin Conway. Let me show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Hi, I'm Erin Conway. I run the website Kismet House as well as the social channels Kismet House, where I document our home renovations and design. I am also an interior designer and I work with local clients as well as virtual clients. So we live in the town of Pacific Grove, which is a tiny little town on the Monterey Peninsula. It is almost overlooked because it's sandwiched between Pebble Beach and Monterey, which are more famous. It's a quaint, amazing little spot. And our home is a 1909 Victorian vernacular, which I did not know what vernacular was, but essentially it means it kind of adopted all these different looks from that era of build. So it's Victorian and lots of different little things. But it's a historic home. There's a lot of those around here in our little town. The story of finding this home, we actually found our way here by chance. We owned a home less than a mile away in the same town that we purchased because we were just desperate to purchase something, and we found a house in dire need of help and the home nobody else wanted, essentially. And purchased that and fixed it up, and that's kind of how Kismet House came to be. We documented the process of renovating that property. And because the way we found that home was we just want to buy property, it didn't really matter that it didn't have everything we needed. It just was a way to get our foot in the door here. And then I was driving home from a yoga class and I took a route I don't usually take, which was down our street that this home is on. And I saw a for sale sign on this home, which was much more my style, historic, charming, and we were in a very like 70s modern. And so I was like, well, let's just see if it would be possible to afford this home if we sold our home for the right number. So we weren't even looking. It wasn't the intention, and it was because of the other home that we were able to make the jump here. When I first saw it, I immediately called my husband. I pulled over in front of the house. I made a call to my husband and I said, hey, can you contact Charlotte, that's our real estate agent, and see if she could meet us today to walk through this home? He's like, what are you talking about? Like, what's even happening? And I was like, it's so beautiful. I feel like it could be amazing. We just need to see inside and see if it's got potential. Because we're always on the hunt for fixers. We like to put our stamp on it, and we don't like it already ready to go home. And on the outside, super cute and charming, didn't know what the inside had in store. But then once we toured it, I knew that day that we wanted to see if it was going to be possible to let the other home go to make this home happen. It's an interesting thing because when I shared that we were considering moving with my audience on social media, we were told we were insane repeatedly because we had put so much work into our prior home to make it just right. And this home needed everything. While on the outside, it was this beautiful, charming, historic home. On the inside, it was just a lot of, this was done in the 90s, this was done in the 70s, this was done in the 80s. All of the original charm was hiding underneath these renovations that happened, and you could tell what era they belonged in just because of the style of the renovation. So there wasn't any space in the home that didn't need to be renovated. So there was a lot of work to be done, but we were up for the challenge. We have done extensive renovations in this home. So we really wanted to honor the fact that it is a 1909 historic home with Victorian elements. And all of those charming details were hidden, so we made it our mission to kind of bring them back. So to my right, you can't see them from where I'm sitting, but there is a set of pocket doors. They had been boarded up. On one side, it was paneling. On the other, it was a bookshelf. And I could tell just by the cuts of the woodwork that there used to be doors there. It just made a lot more sense for the flow of the home. So opening those back up and restoring those, the floors had been covered in a laminate. So we removed the laminate and restored wood. The plaster was crumbling where it was still there, or there was paneling in place. So restoring the plaster, restoring crown molding details that would have been there. It was just a lot of what would have been here, what is appropriate to be here, and bringing that back. So while there isn't a ton of original detail in the home, our hope is that when you come into the home, that's not the case, that you come into the home and you feel like you are in a 1909 home. Welcome to our entryway. I love this little space because in our prior homes we never had a proper entryway, and we live somewhere coastal where it's a bit misty and can be very wet. So having a place to drop the shoes, drop the rain jackets is very exciting for us. We did a lot of work in this space. It was funny, someone had mentioned, they're like, oh, the power of paint, as if that's all it took. And I wish that was, but we had to take down the walls to the studs because the plaster was crumbling and in really bad repair, and we replaced the plaster. We were able to salvage the original little button knobs here, which is very cool. It is the original front door and the original moldings except for the top. The dentil molding we actually added ourselves just to give it a little bit more presence and height. Additionally, in this area, we totally changed the floors. So the home had fir floors that we tried very, very hard to salvage. We lifted the laminates, found the original fir floors, but they were in horrific shape. We actually brought in a salvage team and they were like, they're just too far gone. So because we got to put new wood floors down, I wanted to make the entryway feel special, which is why we did this pattern. It's actually called a Versailles pattern, and it's a woven wood, and I love it. I think it's so special. And then our staircase actually ended right here at this wall, but we extended the last 3 steps to go beyond so we could have this teeny little newel post and banister. My husband thought I was nuts because it's such a small change, but I feel like it gives so much charm to this little space. And we did it this fun contrast trim blue, so it still feels light and bright, but it just kind of lets you know when you walk into the home that it's just kind of a colorful, happy home. This is actually a picture. We decorated the home for Christmas our first year in it, and then I took this photo and sent that photo over to Minted where they can actually create this black and white, looks like a sketch of your home. And it's such a neat thing to have because the exterior of the home is so cute and charming. So you walk in and you get to see this sweet little moment. This plant lives in all climates, 365 days a year because it is plastic. I have a black thumb, so I have a combination of fresh flowers that I can keep alive for their 1 to 2 weeks, and faux foliage because I've tried and every plant I bring in dies, and so I just got tired of being the plant murderer of Congress Avenue. But I put this here just for a little pop of color because there isn't really anywhere you can add textiles or anything cool in this space. I didn't want to do a wallpaper because the wall carries up to the upstairs and I didn't know really where to draw the line, where it stopped and started. So this was kind of a fun moment to bring in a pop of color. And I like to have a dark black or wood in spaces just to ground it. And this it's this teeny little corner, but it's a place to throw your keys down, set your wallet, your sunglasses, and it's just a place to kind of establish that you're home. Okay, so you can see that this entryway splits into 2. When we purchased the home, you can actually still see where the hardware was. This was being used as a bedroom, and so they had a door here. And we took that door off, and now you can go into one of 2 living spaces, and I'm going to take you into our family room. This room I call the pink room because I chose this really fun color by Farrow and Ball, Dead Salmon. Terrible name, which reminds me of a joke where there's 2 salmon. So we named a color after you. Oh, is it a beautiful shimmering blue? No, it's pink. Why is it pink? And so dead salmon is quite fitting. It's a little bit morbid, but it's a beautiful pink color. But this is the room, like I mentioned, they were using as a bedroom. So these are original pocket doors. Well, the original pocket, the door we actually had made because the doors were gone. So we had doors made to fit into the original pocket. But they had sealed it off and put a makeshift bookcase in this space. And I could tell from just the way that the moldings were cut and the weird depth of the bookcase that that wasn't an original feature, that this was probably pocket doors. So within an hour of having the keys, we were breaking into that wall to see if there were pocket doors. We found the pockets and my delight was extreme. So we immediately were like, open it up. These are going to be 2 living spaces. This will be the more cozy family room space. So this room is quite cozy and petite, but it still fits a lot of great pieces, like this big comfy couch. I have a mix of high and low, new and old in here, things from vintage finds to Facebook Marketplace to Target, fancy little French boutique, Target. And I like to play with color, so I have the pink walls, the blue sofa, a green chaise. I'm not afraid of color, and this room is definitely a representation of that. So this is actually a mural from Anthropology. I saw it online. Someone had their dining room wallpapered in it, so they must have had multiple because it's only so large. Loved it. Might feel a little bit overwhelming to fill the room with the wallpaper, so I decided to use the ornate trim work around it to just kind of create a moment that would ultimately frame out the television. And so the trim work that you see on the wall is mirrored on the ceiling, none of which was here. Again, this room was a total renovation, as was every room. We took it down to the studs, redid the plaster, smooth coated, fixed the trim, and then added back in details that may have originally been here, like the molding details. So this was just a really fun way to play up what we added to the ceiling on the walls and just give this room kind of a grounding presence and wow without being overwhelming. This room is pretty much where my 12-year-old son spends most of his time watching sports. So we all hang out as a family in here. We'll do movie nights in here because it's a big couch that we can all kind of climb onto. But this room, my son is always in here with his squishmallows, watching sports. He calls it his living room. It's his favorite place to be in the house, but it's such a comfy space. So we usually all end up piling in here, but it's kind of Finn's room. Originally, when we did this room, I was trying to convince myself that I wanted a super duper modern light fixture to be a juxtaposition with the very ornate moldings. And I did that, and I didn't love it, and I kept trying to make myself love it, and it was very much a square peg round hole. And so when I found this Lucille fixture from Ballard Designs, I couldn't resist bringing it in. It feels like such a cool antique piece. It feels like it could be original to the home. It's just a showstopper. I don't think I've ever had someone new come to the home and not notice it. She's just a beauty. So I love it so much, and I'm glad that I let go of my need to have that super sleek modern fixture because this one's so pretty. This piece I have been carting around with me for a while. It is a Facebook Marketplace find that I got for $40. I love it so much. I think it's so charming. I love the detail work and the crystal knobs. It's just, it's been an entryway piece, it's been a TV console, it's been an actual dresser, but I just can't quit it. I just think it's so beautiful, and I can't get over the fact that I got it for $40. And I also tell everyone that. I'm like, isn't it beautiful? It was $40. It's just my pride and joy. And then beside it is this beautiful green chaise from River and Board in this beautiful thyme green with the fringe. This, I feel like my mom was guiding me with this purchase. This is so her, and I'm not usually a fringe girly, but I just fell in love with this piece, and I coveted it for a while. I kept it in the cart of my online shopping basket for months, and then finally for my birthday a couple of years ago, I said, fine, I'm doing it. I'm buying myself the chaise, and I did. And I love it so much. It's so comfy. It might not be the most practical piece of furniture, but it is my favorite piece in the house. And next to it is this gorgeous lamp that I scored at a vintage market. I walked in, within the first 30 seconds I saw it, picked it up, carried it to the front desk, and that was my shopping for that day. I was so excited about it. So I love this little corner, and I tend to be the one enjoying it, in addition to my 6-year-old daughter, who also loves the chaise. So from this space, we open up right into the main living room, and then this little mirror on the wall is actually, I love it because when we purchased our prior home, it was in one of the bathrooms. It had kids' stickers all over it. The bathroom had like bamboo wallpaper. It was terrible. And so the mirror looked terrible in that space, but then once we took it down and cleaned it up, I was like, oh my gosh, I love that thing. It's actually really charming. So I just cart this around with me now. It's something that looked like a tear down from an old house, and now I just love it, and I think it's special. So it stays. It lives to fight another day. Now, right off of the family room, we have the living room. Realistically, these two rooms function very similarly. We have kids, so it's not like we use a space more formally and one more casually. Everything is used casually in this house. There's usually Legos on the coffee table. There's usually a dog draped across the sofa. So again, comfort was key, and playing with color was something I wanted to do, more so in the furnishings here, because we had green color wash in this room, but because it only has one set of bay windows that don't get morning light, it felt very cavernous. And so we went with this lighter toned stone hearth by Benjamin Moore, so we could still have some color and warmth and contrast, but it wouldn't feel so dark in here. My favorite piece, the piece de resistance in this room, is the fireplace. This was actually a 2-tiered wood Victorian mantle. It was very, very bulky, very awkward height, stopped about here, had columns, was really chunky, and I wanted to love it because it was original to the home. But after over a year of just trying different paint colors, different styling techniques, I couldn't love it. So we took it down very, very carefully. We sold it to someone who was putting it in a historic home, and they absolutely loved it. And then we found this particular mantle. It is a Victorian marble mantle from the late 1800s. It was in Smith College. It's named Otella because it's named after the first black student who went to Smith College. It's just a very cool piece with so much history. And if we were going to replace something historic that belonged in a historic home, we wanted to put something historic in its place and just honor the fact that we didn't want to just replace it with something new. So I love it. I think it's so beautiful. It's my favorite thing in the room. How would I describe my style when it comes to decor? I'm asked that a lot, and I tend to say collected, comfortable, cozy, traditional. So it changes. I think of interior design the way probably an artist would think of their painting, or a composer would think of their music, that it's always changing, you're always growing. It's not one consistent thing. You're learning and evolving. And so my home is that. It's always evolving. My style is always evolving. But I think the thing that always remains true is it feels layered and collected, like it has a story to tell. There are traditional elements and that warm and cozy. So I know that's not a design or decor name, but that's really the best way I can describe my style. So this is an original bookcase to the home. It's in pretty rough shape, but I like all of its wonky details. However, the back is new because this lower portion used to have an arch cut out in the back wall where you could reach into the dining room through that lower portion, which is cool in theory, but in practice it always just looked really messy. And when we renovated the dining room and the kitchen later, it made more sense to just close that up. So we did a tongue and groove detail with warm wood just to kind of create a backdrop for pretty things that this changes out depending on colors in the room, season, things like that. So, but yeah, this is a cool original feature. It has glass doors actually, but the glass is quite old, and it was all you could see was your reflection. So we actually removed the doors so you could actually enjoy the pretty things inside. But it's a cool original feature to the home. So, and then these windows are original to the home as well. You can actually still see the sash. They're non-operable, so we will have to update them someday. That's on the to-do list, but I just love the thick, chunky molding that is original. The moldings in here on the floor are actually original to the home. We were able to salvage them. So anywhere we add in molding, we have to kind of recreate that look of that big, thick, chunky. Like these were added in, but we needed to mirror what was here. And these baseboards were added in, but we needed to mirror what was here. And so that's been an interesting challenge to this house, where we have been able to salvage. It's only been in part, not in whole. And so when we do add in, we need to make it look like it was all salvaged and not piecemealed together. So that's been an interesting challenge, but a fun one. And then back here, it's just a little sofa console picture of my mom when she was a little girl. Just because I love all the women in that picture, they all look very, very tough. And I just love that. And then picture of my kids with it. And our comfy sofa. We use this room kind of the same way we use the other room to watch family movies, to spend time together, play board games. We just do all of our living between these two spaces, the family room and the living room, and I love them. This coffee table is actually Amber Lewis for Anthropology. It's a beautiful, it looks almost like it could have been a salvaged piece, the way that they made it, the way that it's kind of put together. It's so heavy and substantial. I went back and forth with different coffee tables, and I finally just, because it's a little bit pricier, but I finally decided to splurge on it, and we've had it for years, and it's a beauty. And often the stage for my 6-year-old daughter doing ballet, so multifunctional. And then over here is this, I love this old cabinet. Again, in this house, it's high-low, old-new. This was a cabinet I found at a vintage store. I actually found it, fell in love with it, but did not have tape measure, didn't know if it would fit, resisted the urge to impulse buy it anyway, and then could not stop thinking about it. So a month later, I was able to get back, and it was still there. And I took that as a sign, and I took it home, regardless of the dimensions, and just crossed my fingers that it would work. I did one of these, like, things, and it works. It's perfect. It's a perfect size, and now it's just another place to store toys, but looks really cute doing so, and has so much charm, and it's so beat up, and I just love that. This is not actually a original Monet painting. It is the frame television. My husband made this wood frame for us to help with the illusion that it is artwork. It fools people all the time, which is very, very cool, but more importantly, it's a great TV. Not sponsored by the frame, by the way. It's just a very solid television, great sound, great picture, love it. And when it's off, which is often, it gets to look like something pretty on the wall. I topped it to make it kind of, again, that illusion of its artwork with another piece of art. This was from my mom's collection. I actually got it after she passed, and it makes me smile when I see it, because I remember this time I was giving my mom a hard time because she always had botanicals all over the house. And she was like, look, Erin, botanicals are always in. And so when I see it, I hear her, and it makes me happy. This is actually another piece of hers. She got that when she was traveling in Europe. So my mom's kind of sprinkled all over this room. On the mantle, that's another one of her old botanicals. So she's here with me with her style. And then we have these two comfy velvet chairs from our house. They're the Abbott chair, and they're this delicious chocolate brown. I love them. They're so cozy and cool. I love the shape. I feel like they have this, there's such a statement without being like in your face. I love the rounded back, the rounded arms. They're petite, but they're still deep and comfortable. They're a great piece, and I love the deep chocolate brown color. So I think they have a lot of presence. So I think they're very cool. Share. I'm very big into lighting. I love lighting, love lamps, love multiple ways to light a space, from task to ambient. It's just, I think lighting is so important. We didn't run the electrical in this wall when we did the renovation and updated the plaster, which I regretted. So I got these cuties from Pookie, which are battery operated. So they can go anywhere without any hard wiring, but they're actually a really legit light option. They cast a great light, the light is warm, it doesn't look like LED battery, and now I can have my sconces without my hard wiring. And then the last light that I'd want to point out in here is the chandelier. It's this beautiful Leland chandelier from our house. It is absolutely the jewelry of the room. The reflection in the mirror, the way it has prisms and catches the light and has cast rainbows throughout the room at different points of the day. It's just such a statement, and so happy we put it in here. This room originally, though, looked very, very, very different. This wall was paneling, hiding the pocket doors. There were acoustic tiles on the ceiling. There were no molding details except for the base. This was a very, very small walkway right here with a closet. We had to gut everything down to the studs, re-insulate, re-plaster, smooth coat, paint, and then add moldings back in. So there's very little original to this space, but again, our hope in the restoration, renovation of this home is that when you come into the space, it feels like it was always this way. And then coming off of the living space as an entryway, we go into the kitchen through this big, beautiful arch that was not here. This was about the depth of the hallway before, and this was a closet door that had just shelves for coats and things like that. And it was just a teeny narrow hall. There was actually a drop ceiling in the hall. It was very, very dark, very strange, and really restricted the flow from kitchen dining to living space. And so when we decided to do the kitchen renovation, this was one of the first things I wanted to do, was to open this up to bring the spaces together and create some harmony between kitchen and living space. My favorite part about my home, I think, is the kitchen. We just completed a massive gut renovation of the kitchen. It was a very small, compartmentalized 90s renovation kitchen, and then a dining room that felt way oversized for the kitchen. And so we opened up the walls, put a steel beam in so we could connect the spaces, expanded the cabinetry, but again, tried to do it in a way that it felt like obviously this kitchen is new and just was done, but it feels very charming and homey and traditional and feels like it belongs in this home, not like, oh, this was done in 2008. So that is my favorite space. It's the heart of the home. We're always in there cooking as a family. When we entertain, that's where people gravitate towards. It's just a really happy space. I love this tall tower, is what they refer to it in the design world, this countertop cabinet. I feel like it feels like a piece of furniture. Again, this is a 1909 home, and we're putting a brand new kitchen in it, so we wanted to bring in elements that made it feel a little bit more cozy and charming, things that maybe could have been here, or at least feel appropriate for the era of the home. And we felt like adding beautiful wood cabinetry, countertop cabinets would be a fun way to do that. And then we did an unlacquered hardware, so it would tarnish over time just to give that element of age and hominess. These cabinets, I love them so much because I feel like they look very high-end, they're really beautiful, they function beautifully, but they are RTA cabinets, which means ready to assemble. You can only customize them to a point, and they come to you in parts and pieces and you build them yourself. However, they are solid wood. They are dovetailed solid wood. They're really, really, really high quality, but you can save dramatically on cost. And when you're doing a massive scale renovation, finding ways to save on cost is very important. So I love these for the fact that they look very high end, but are budget friendly. Some of my favorite features about it are the lighting, because I designed them. These are lights from a line that I got to design and create with Maxim, and I'm very, very proud of them. And a lot of things in the kitchen, I kept these lights in mind because I wanted them to feel at home in the space when it was done. So I'm very proud of those. And the kitchen, other than that, this is my baby. I am not a chef. I am a Trader Joe's, heated up in a pan, toast gal. But my husband is a chef. He is fantastic. He is such a great cook, and having 6 burners and a wider range was really important to him, and having something really beautiful was important to me, and we found this extremely beautiful functional option from Ilve and just love it. And it's kind of like the showpiece of the kitchen, which is why we made it such a focal point in this space. So above the range, we have this collection of copper pots. So I'm asked all the time, how do they function? Do they cook well? I don't know because they are decorative. I'm sure they function beautifully. I got them from Etsy. They are original copper pots. They're very, very old, but I really just wanted something to be a beautiful kind of piece of art in the kitchen. I'm sure they're functional, but I can't tell you from experience how well they function. Over on this side of the kitchen, it's the sink. A non-negotiable was a large, deep sink for washing dishes, setting platters down if we were to entertain, and I really wanted to do this fluted detail in the front just because it feels very charming, old school European cottage, and so I knew I wanted an apron front with this really beautiful fluted detail. And then something else we added is this heat vent down here. Instead of just having your classic heat vent, we went with a really decorative option so it could feel special. And then instead of doing a classic toe kick or place for your feet to go, we did a baseboard to make the cabinetry feel like furniture. Another way to kind of give that old, homey, warm feeling. And then again, unlacquered brass on this bridge faucet. So it's super tarnished, and I absolutely adore the fact that it's tarnished because, again, it gives that old, charming, lived-in element, which is super important to me in this home. This used to be actually a bumped out window with a ledge and a vertical slider, like small rectangular window. So when we renovated, I opened up this huge hole in the wall so we could have these massive French windows, and I went with this petite frame because, again, charming, cottagey, old feeling to them. So I just feel like it's such a statement, and it feels so special. And then this is what we call our butler's pantry. This is where all the snacks and kids' plates and Tupperwares and things like that live. As much as I love the idea of having glass front, open shelving, that wasn't reality for a home with 2 kids. But this actually used to act like a hallway that went into the guest room at the front of the house. And on this wall was hooks for pots and things like that. On this wall was just a kind of desktop with nothing underneath, and then some open shelves here, and then a tall, narrow cabinet here. It was very, very non-practical, not functional, and getting in and out of the guest room through this way was not a necessity at all. It's not something that really elevated the function of our home. So when we renovated, we walled that off so we could create this wall of cabinetry and this really functional butler's pantry, which I love. It's our little coffee bar area. One of the lights from my line is in here. Did a fun wallpaper, or sweet wallpaper. And then I actually use these cutting boards for serving, prepping, hosting, but they function like art in the meantime. And then it gave us a place to kind of hide our microwave because it kind of hides in the darker lowers. yeah, but this pantry, I'll come out of here, this is the second iteration of it. Originally, I went with blue cabinetry and wood planks on the ceiling because I was trying to play off the range, and it gave me what I referred to as 90s goose kitchen vibes and felt very out of place. And so, much to my husband's dismay, because we did have to paint these cabinets ourselves, we had to paint them a second time. But when you know that it's not right, you fix it. So I'm very happy we did this second attempt because the blue wasn't doing it for us. So this is our refrigerator wall. This actually, the refrigerator used to sit here in the space, and it did come out, you know, as far as a refrigerator would. And this is a standard depth refrigerator, but the reason it can sit so shallow on this wall is because when this room was the prior space, there was a spice cabinet here in this wall, just a little door that you could open for spices, but it was very deep. So we gutted that cabinet out and we slid the refrigerator in. So the back half of the refrigerator is tucked inside this wall. So we only have to have this little front part of the refrigerator exposed, which allows us to have a much more functional flow and walk space for it. And then we did the unlacquered here again, cute little latch up there, and just a little toaster area. And this is our charging drawer. We have all of our electronics that can charge in here to keep them off of the counter. Greatest thing ever. I highly recommend doing that in your homes. It's just a cute little moment that used to be a big refrigerator kind of jetting out. So like that change. This island, I feel like is a showstopper. I was inspired by Duval Kitchens. They make a dairy table that's very similar to this, and I love it, but it was out of reach financially. It was a pretty penny. Not that it's not worth it, it was just not in our budget. And so we reached out to a local friend, Nate, who is a woodworker, and he created this version for us that we kind of co-worked on together to make it unique enough to where it wasn't a copy, but similar enough in our very specific dimensions, so we would still have ample walkway on either side, and it's a workhorse. Always prepping on it. There's arts and crafts on it, food out for parties, there's storage for cutting boards and dish towels. It's not only beautiful, it is incredibly functional, and I'm so thankful that we incorporated this piece into the kitchen because of that. So the stone on here is different than the stone on the counters because we knew we would be doing a lot of prep here and we wanted something a little more durable. So this is actually a granite that kind of looks like a soapstone. And these are marble because I just really, really wanted marble even though they're high maintenance. And I gotta say, no regrets. I mean, even though there does get little dings or little stains, it just really adds to the charm of the natural stone, and it doesn't make it less beautiful. It's just unique and special, and I have absolutely zero regrets about going with the natural stone on the counters. But it's probably easy to say because I have a space that I can spill lime juice and red wine and it's not a problem, but still, no regrets. And then now we're in our dining space. So this room looks quite different than it did before. There used to be, again, this was a teeny hall, so there was a wall here and it opened up, very small entry space into the kitchen. And then this was the long, narrow dining space that seemed, the scale of it hasn't changed, but it just felt so disproportionate because the kitchen ended about here in the renovation. And so that felt really tight in a little walkway, and then this felt really vast. During the renovations, we gutted everything to the studs again, and in doing so, we found that the prior owner at some point built a wall on top of a wall. So instead of dealing with the crumbling plaster, they just built another wall on top of that wall, so they didn't have to deal with the crumbling plaster, and it was taking about 6 to 8 inches of room away because of the framework. And so we took that down, took the crumbling plaster down, and found the backside of the other fireplace, which is what this brick is. And we brought someone out to see if we could make it a dual-sided fireplace or what we could do there, but because of the age of the chimney and the age of the brick, making this operable on the side wasn't an option, but I decided that's fine, let's just build a faux fireplace. Let's utilize the brick that we found and build this hearth and just make it kind of a sweet element in the room, even if it can't be functional. So this was just solid wall, and then over here, it was a built-in cabinet that was added in probably the 50s, just based on the style of the wood, the cabinetry, the handles and all of that. We decided, because we were putting this large hutch in the space, to utilize it a different way, which is why we did this, had this fun wallpaper added for some color and interest, and then just created this cute little desk area. Again, I love color and pattern, so I liked to play with that here since this space is more neutral. Then these were, goes out into our backyard. These were vinyl sliders. They were very, very wide. They were about 10 feet wide, but very short. And so we made them more narrow and took height up and added these oak French doors to mirror the look of the windows in the kitchen, to mirror the wood tones that we've used on the kitchen, towers and island, and just to give this area a lot more character than just a vinyl sliding door. So I love these. I think they're such a statement and cannot wait until we can get our hands on the backyard and have these open all the time. Over here is a hutch that we added. There was nothing on this wall. It was just a blank wall, so we decided to utilize it for extra spillover kitchen storage. That was the plan, but what has happened is all of these drawers are filled with craft supplies for my children, which is fantastic because those needed storage too. So this has ultimately become a place where we can set out food and drinks and things like that when we're entertaining, but it is toy and craft storage for our kids the rest of the time. And then we added these shelves in here with these corbels just to give it a little bit of charm along with the beadboard, because again, the goal is to make it feel like it could have been here, or at least is meant to be in a home of this age. So again, mixing old and new is the theme, and this is over 100 years old, this table. I actually saw it on Craigslist, and it was listed for much more than I could afford to spend. We've had this for years. And I wrote a message to the lady and was like, I want to make you this offer. I don't want to insult you, but this is all I can afford. And she actually called and said, I would be happy to sell it to you and your family, but a consignment shop actually just picked it up this morning. You'll have to get there, said pick it up within the hour if you want it. So we stopped what we were doing and went to the consignment shop and bought it from them. They didn't seem pleased because I think we got it for a price that was less than probably what it's worth, but we love it because it shows so much wear and tear. There's so much patina on it. There are burns and stains, and we have no fear about painting on the table, arts and crafts, Play-Doh, spills, because that's just what makes it beautiful and charming, is all of the imperfections of it. So it's not quite large enough for this space, if I'm being totally honest, but I love it too much to part with it. So with it, we just have these cute little round back cane chairs, and then this vintage bench that I found at an antiques store. My kids love to sit there. They love to sit on the bench. That's their favorite. So I love it. It's just a collection of pieces that may or may not work perfectly together, but kind of tell a story. The light fixture over the table is actually also part of the collection that I launched. This is the linear chandelier from the Kismet collection with Maxim. We had a standard round 5-light chandelier here, but decided because it is kind of a long, narrow space with a long, narrow table, this would be ideal. And I feel like it looks so cool. It's interesting. It's a little bit more modern. So I do like that juxtaposition with the much more traditional space. But these little accordion pleated glass shades give it that older element, and then it's gold leaf on these fixtures, so there's some wear and distressing to that. So feel like it's a nice balance of new and old, and I think it's the perfect size for this dining space. So when I had the opportunity to create a lighting line, they offered for me to just kind of be what they call a tastemaker, where you go through the collections that they're either launching or have already launched and kind of put your stamp of approval on them. I had asked if I could be more involved than that and actually come up with my own designs. And they said, yeah, we're game. I let them know I'm not a lighting designer, so these will be sketched out very crudely with pencil and paper. And then I'll have some like sample colors and inspiration. And hopefully I can explain to you the vision. And that is what happened. I drew crude sketches with pencil and paper. I kind of put a mood board together and then presented my designs. They loved them, and the rest is history. So yeah, it just went from crude lines on paper to CAD renderings to a sample being made and sent over for us to approve to market. They just launched we went to market in January, and they just became available like 2 months ago. So it's all still very new and very cool and very exciting. I saw someone reshared a picture of our kitchen, and someone in the comments who doesn't follow us was like, oh my gosh, those are my lights. And I was like, oh, someone has my lights in their house. It's just such a cool thing to experience. So it's pretty neat and surreal, but I'm very proud of them. So when it comes to my home, where I find inspiration, really everywhere. I love old things. I love finding antiques. As far as inspiration for a particular room, I usually find a piece of art or a rug or a textile that I love and kind of build off of that palette. But as far as inspiration goes, there's lots of incredible designers that I'm inspired by. I love a Nancy Meyers movie set. I think the thing that's so amazing about her movie sets is they feel very, very, very lived in, and you believe the family in that movie actually lives in that home. And so I'm just inspired by things that feel warm and cozy. And I grew up in a home that was very much that. My mom was very into design herself, and lots of color, lots of pattern, 6 kids running around, so lots of function, lots of comfort, but really beautiful and welcoming. And so that's really where I pull from. All right, now let's head upstairs and I'll show you the rest of the house. Where I'm standing now, I used to be able to touch the ceiling. This was a very, very dark, completely closed-in stairwell. There was a little seashell light right here. And then when we got to here, there was this teeny narrow doorway that if I was standing on the landing right now, I'd be touching the top of it. Just really dark and congested. So what we did was we knocked that all down and put this banister here and opened up the space. It is a quirky hall, very low ceilings, no windows because of the construction of the home. It's like a hipped roof. There's beams running across, so the ceiling can't go up here. But having that closed off like it was just made it feel so dark and tiny. It felt like a dollhouse almost. It felt very disproportionate. So opening that up was a game changer. And then these are the original doors that were covered in layers and layers and layers of paint that we recently stripped and stained this beautiful wood tone and added this hardware that looks vintage, but the original hardware unfortunately was lost at some point, and there was very 90s hardware on it. So we found these pieces online and added those to the doors. But I just think they're so sweet and charming, and really love this hallway now. And it was something that deterred buyers from the home because it felt so dark and congested. We were told that other people commented on it and definitely felt like it was too much of a thing to take on. So we're grateful for that weird little hallway that got us this house. And then the last space I'll show you up here is our primary bedroom. On Cribs, that they say it's where the magic happens, right? We'll go here. This is our primary bedroom. It's actually probably the smallest of the 3 bedrooms upstairs, not counting the office, of course. But our kids use their rooms like play spaces. They hang out, they play video games, they play dolls. And so we decided, what do we do in our room other than sleep at the end of the day? Let's give them the larger rooms to enjoy, and we will take the cozy room at the back. We decided to just embrace the small nature of the room and create a really, really cozy space. We did that with, So we did that with wallpaper, fun vintage hardware. My husband made these doors for our closets. They were bifold doors that you would just get at a general hardware store, so he created these for us to just make them feel a little bit more special. He added the beams to the ceiling, and then we did a combination of a trim color, wallpapers, fun art, and then just a lot of fabric and color to feel really, really warm. I wanted to come into this space and just want to crawl into bed, want to spend time in here at the end of the day and just relax. So the color palette in here is very calming, and we love it. It's just a cozy little space. So this is a cute little skinny bench. They were quite the hot ticket item for a while there on social media. We got ours at Through the Porthole, which is a vintage dealer. It's just a cool piece. It has so much character. It's a little bit rough in spots, smooth in spots, but we actually genuinely use it daily to sit down, to put on our shoes, to take off our shoes. It's narrow, so it's not imposing on the walkway, but it has so much character. And so really love it. Highly recommend if you have a foot of the bed, but not an ample space for a cute little feature at the foot of your bed. So again, the running theme, old, new, high, low. This is a very kind of Art Deco shaped dresser, which you would think doesn't really make a lot of sense in this kind of very cottagey inspired bedroom, but it's interesting and it's substantial. It fits this spot perfectly. It softens it up because there's so many harsh square angles with, again, the framed TV, framed art, and so to bring something soft with some texture really made it interesting. They say about outfits, it needs to either be an interesting color, an interesting shape, or an interesting texture or something like that. And I feel the same way about furniture. Like, it needs to be interesting in some capacity. And this is such a focal point. We got this from Eclectic Goods, and it's a great piece, very substantial, very cool. So, love it. And then over here is my antique dresser. It's a beat up old redwood dresser, totally different than this dresser. But again, it has some soft curves to it, has soft sides, a rounded top, these old rounded handles, just to, again, create some sense of curvature in this very angular space. And haven't done any treatment to it. This is just the rustic beat up shape we found it in at an antique store. And then over here, our nightstands are these very sleek, very structural piece that really complement the dresser, but in a funky way. Like I feel like they complement because they're both black, and they also complement because they feel a bit more modern. But these, there's almost like what did I tell my husband? They reminded me of like Beauty and the Beast when the furniture comes to life and it grows legs. And I thought it was so funky and fun, and I really liked that about it. And so I like pieces, especially in a space where you don't have room for a lot, to be really interesting, to either be really great in function or really great in shape, or just be an interesting thing to look at, not boring, since you don't have a lot of room to play. So did that with our dressers and tables. Because of the scale, it's this was kind of cut in prior by the other owner, and there was already electrical here, and so we knew we were going to make this little TV nook because we have a king size bed. A queen would fit in here, but a king would not. And so we knew this is where the TV nook dresser thing was going to be, so I went on a hunt for a dresser that would be like the perfect scale for this spot. I think what gives a home soul, the reason I think we're drawn towards older homes is because the wear and tear, the fact that you can tell that there was a story, life has been lived in this house. I love older homes. There's nothing wrong with a new build. There's something about an old home. You walk in and you can tell life has happened here. Love has happened here. And I think the way that you like genuinely live in your home and invite people into your spaces and make them comfortable and colorful and cozy is what gives a home soul, just the life that's lived in them. What does home mean to me? It really is not about the four walls and the roof. It is essentially kind of mirroring what I had just said about what gives it soul. It's the people that you're living your life with in it. Home is my family. Home is a place where we can feel safe and comfortable, that no matter how amazing of a trip you were just on, it feels good to come back to your home. It feels like a hug. And investing in your home and the pieces that you bring into it to make sure it's kind of your favorite place to be is what makes home. I've always said we're not forever home people. We're maybe forever town people, but we're where our family is going to thrive people, where our life is going to be lived to the fullest. And the home is a reflection of that life that we're living, but it's not about the house. It's about the people and the life you're sharing in that house.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.